Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Higher Line podcast. We've got our young, virile, strong buddy out here, Trevor Blue. His name sounds like cologne. Get yourself a bottle of Trevor Blue.
That's right.
I just came up with that.
You should patent that and then make cologne for me and give me all the profit.
There you go. That's spoken like a 25-year-old. Spoken like a 25-year-old.
It's my name.
So you've got a shirt on, Purdue Wrestling.
I do, yes.
We'll real quick give the listener viewers a quick rundown on you. I met you. You came to do some training after you had just got out of the Navy. Mm-hmm. You are a walk-on to a Division I wrestling team, which is Purdue University in Indiana. Yeah. You're into physical fitness.
A little bit.
Studying kinesiology in college.
Yes.
And one of the things I wanted to talk about is like how you went and got yourself onto a wrestling team, and we'll get to that. But I think it's a pretty good. I said a lot so far this podcast, so I'm gonna have to limit that. It's a good talking point and listening point for folks looking at doing something really hard and achieving an objective. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
You pretty much nailed it. That's been most of my life so far since 18. Yeah, joined the Navy right away. Went into a special warfare program. Got washed out of that, unfortunately, but that led to a lot of really cool opportunity, and it taught me a lot, which is one of the reasons why it motivated me to try and walk on, because it was like I had a gap in my life where I was like really struggling to find my purpose, and that was like a bad taste in my mouth. And so I had to...
the bad taste, not making it through buds?
Yeah, not making it through buds, ill-prepared, and I did a lot of talking because I was young and arrogant. So I was telling everybody and their mother, like, oh, you know, I'm gonna be a SEAL one day and all this stuff. And I did a lot of talking and not so much working. And I learned, obviously, the hard way. Like,
that's a pretty big thing to admit at a ripe old age of 25. You caught yourself?
Yeah, I mean... I'm pretty brutally honest with most things, but I think that's an important part for growth. Like if I'm gonna, grow as a person, it's got to be told.
So you're in high school, you decide I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL one day.
Yeah.
And so are people that do that, and then you hear later, oh man, that's all that guy talked about, and then there he is. Which isn't a bad thing, but some people, that's their way of like building themselves up. You just maybe were overconfident, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I was overconfident, and I would say that I was more ill-prepared. Yeah, I would say.
Were you physically gifted? Are you physically gifted compared to some people? I mean, I've seen you shirtless. Your svelte, muscular body. But are you at the time? Did you give yourself more credit maybe than you should have because like in high school were you like the fast strong guy?
Not really, no. No, I've never really been. I was actually pretty small for when I first started high school.
Okay.
But I wasn't really particularly gifted, but I would say pretty tough. Like that was my characteristic. I wasn't particularly gifted in anything, but my coaches worked me hard, and I worked hard for them. But no, I don't think I'm particularly gifted even now. But
so where did this overconfidence come from?
It was a false sense of confidence for whatever reason. An 16 to 18-year-old builds false confidence. Maybe it was success with wrestling or something like that. I'm not sure what it stemmed from.
How did you do as a wrestler in high school?
I had a good career, but I wasn't a varsity wrestler. I was behind a guy who is arguably the best wrestler to come out of Indiana ever. He was in my weight class and my graduating class, freshman through senior year.
Okay. Where's he now?
He's a coach at IU.
Okay.
Which is our rival school.
Okay.
Which is funny. I just saw him at a wrestling tournament and said hi.
So he's like just 26, 27, 28 years old?
Yeah.
Okay.
26, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Really great guy. Really good wrestler. And I was behind him. And our team was the best that it had ever been in high school. We won a team state championship my freshman year, qualified sophomore, junior, and then runner-up senior. So we were really good, and that's, something I'm really proud of. And I think I got really lucky to be on a team like that, because if I had been through a smaller school, maybe like 15 minutes south, I wouldn't have pursued. That would have been it. I would have been a high school wrestler, and I wouldn't have been a Division I wrestler now.
So you're around the cream of the crop for your sport, so you started to cultivate this idea of being a winner.
I would say pushing the envelope. I like to push the envelope a lot, and
okay.
I like to see where I stand, and I'm okay with failure and like the truth. I'm not okay with uncertainty. So I usually go after things that most people are like, pass, or I don't have any interest in that. And it's not that it's any like, there's been plenty of Division I wrestlers, even veteran ones, but yeah, it's just something that I wanted to do just because I like a challenge, and it's something I didn't think maybe, not that I wasn't capable of, but it wasn't expected of me.
So you didn't get a scholarship or anything like that. You left and went to the Navy, did your time there, got out, and then decided I need to go back to school.
One of the reasons I went to the military was because I thought at the time, like, a big way that you get recruited is letters. It will send you a letter, or maybe they'll come up to you to meet. And I wasn't the dude at the spot, so I didn't get a lot of FaceTime, and I didn't get any letters, and I thought that meant something, like, oh, you're not, nobody wants you, which is of course not true at all. Yeah. So I just later on in life, after facing some adversity, I just decided that, you know what, I'm not going to let people tell me what I can and can't do. I'm just going to go do it.
Mm-hmm. Pretty unique to leave the sport for 4 years while you were off in the Navy and then come back to it at that level, right? I mean, most of the guys that you're training with, competing with, your teammates now, they didn't go to a career for 4 years and leave wrestling behind.
Right.
And then come back to compete. So that's pretty unique. They were the whole time... These guys, and you're older probably than all your classmates, right? Mm-hmm. You're like the old man.
Yeah, that's kind of like a running joke on the team is I'm old, and so they always expect me to be like the broken, like hobbling around.
And you're 25.
25, yeah, I'm young. Yeah, I just go along with it. I'm just like, oh yeah, man, yeah, I'm beat up.
But in the context of sports like that, 18-year-old, 19-year-old to a 25-year-old, that's a lot of experience too.
Sure, yeah, sure. I have definitely, I would say, more life experience, but I get roughed up in that room.
Do you?
Yeah, I like it though.
So you went to the Navy, didn't work out for you, you got out. Not that it didn't work out for you, but like the main goal of being a SEAL, that didn't happen. Honestly,
and I don't think a lot of people can say this, I'm almost glad that I didn't make it as a SEAL because it opened me up as a person. If I would have succeeded as a SEAL, I'm sure I would have been glad, but I'm equally happy that I didn't make it because it taught me a lot. I learned a lot about myself kind of through that failure.
Go on.
Well, I just learned more about work and less about talk at a younger age. So I stopped talking about what I was going to do and just started doing it, which was cool in a way. Wrestling was part of it, but... anything from business to just to a college education, because I had family members that were like, yeah, man, you're not going to go to college. It's not in you, much let alone get a degree or wrestle, which was hard, but also motivating because I was just like, well, screw you. I'm going to do it anyways. But yeah, no, that failure at first like really stung and it was hard to come over, but ultimately it drove me even to become a wrestler. I was like, you know what? This is something that I'm gonna set a goal. I'm gonna do it the right way, and then I'm eventually gonna achieve it, and then maybe not resurrect my failure, but start on a different path of being successful at what I set out to be successful at.
What prompted all of that? So you had this whole idea to create a plan and put action to it. Where did that come from that you didn't have the ability to do that a couple years before? Did you read a book? Did you talk to somebody? Did you just figure out I'm going about this the wrong way?
Yeah, I think I figured it out really just for myself. I mean, I have a lot of really great friends, you being one of them, but at the time, It was hard to understand, but my dad is a pretty big influence. And I noticed that he's more of a listener than he is a talker. So, and I'm a bit of both. And I started to really listen, and not just listen or just hear what they're saying, but listen to what other people were saying. And I think somewhere along the lines, I figured out that, hey, it's more about doing, or it's more about, it's less about talking about something and more about, there's more to just like, oh, I'm gonna be a D1 wrestler. Great. How do you do it?
Were you? Did you catch yourself in conversations with people, talking over them, or just like letting their words flow past you so you could get back to the point of flapping your own jaws? Did you catch yourself doing that?
No, I wasn't a talker. I don't like talking over people. But I definitely didn't heed any warning or take any advice because I thought, because one of my best friends who is a Navy SEAL was like, hey, before I was even in, I was at his house hanging out, and he's like, dude, you gotta go swing a hammer, was literally what he told me. He's like, go swing a hammer, get some life under your belt. The Navy SEAL thing ain't going anywhere, you gotta experience life.
So he's a little older than you.
He's 12 years older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he got a couple of years on me. Yeah, and he was just like, I'm not saying that you can or can't do it. I believe in you.
He just knew your attitude maybe wasn't going to help you.
I think I reminded him of a younger him and what he needed. So, yeah, he was like, you got to get some more life in, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Once again, I wasn't listening, heeding any warning, and I just went after it, which is, I think there's something to be said about that, both good and bad, but, yeah, like I said, I don't think there's very many guys, I would like to think maybe there are, but I don't think so, really. I can say, like, I'm almost glad I failed.
So most people don't say they're almost glad they failed. What I've found for most people in life is they hold on to a failure, and that becomes the hinge point of their life. Like, well, everything was fine till I failed, and that's when it all went downhill. Or that's when I realized I wasn't cut out to do great things, and I just have to, accept the things that the tides of life give me. And
sure.
But most people I've ever met that are successful in anything will tell you 20, 30 stories like what you're saying. So of course that's not unique to you, but it's always good to get different people's perspective. David Goggins, a Navy SEAL. I don't follow his work, but everybody talks about him. So I got his book recently and I read it, and I think he went to Bud's 3 times, right? Like that was his thing, like I'm going to do this. And that there's tons of people that, have stories like that.
Yeah.
But
that's
to
funny.
be able to convert it.
Yeah.
To be able to convert that fail, and it's not really a failure. Like Napoleon Hill said, every failure carries with it the seed of a greater or of an equivalent or greater success. It's there. You just gotta dig it and plant it and water it and nurture it and fertilize it. And
yeah.
You were about to say.
No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, and I don't know if it's nothing special, but it does seem like it's a rarity to be able to sit back and say that and go, I know I didn't succeed at this, or I didn't fail, but I didn't get what I wanted, and be able to take something and extrapolate something that can still help you grow.
I have a philosophy, or maybe more a truism that makes sense in my head. Like, you take a cross-section of society. Most people talk about, like, us and them, like the leaders, the wealthy, the politicians, the CEOs. Like, there's them, and then there's us. And, like, as soon as somebody identifies themselves as one or the other, it's like you automatically know all you need to know about them. Like, that guy sees himself as one of them, and then he does not, or she does not identify with the elite. And it doesn't need to be, like, wealth. It could be physical elite. Like, I'll never be able to wrestle, or I'll never be able to run a marathon, or I'll never be able to do 100 push-ups or whatever. You just identify yourself. So where I'm going with that is, like, it's almost like remember a couple of years ago, this whole movement of the 98% or whatever, 99%, remember?
Oh, the 1%ers.
Yeah. Like, like the whole rest of us. Well, the reason that there is the two is because people choose to be one or the other. And I honestly think that it's like the totality of that is that large swath of society just chooses not to really dig into the things that they fail at to learn how to progress. That's what I really think it is. Like most people, well, I suck at that, so I'm not going to do that again. And that is their learning. That is what they take away from it. That sucks. It hurts to lose. I feel bad when I lose. And then, well, that's just, I guess, it's like the judge said on Caddyshack, the world needs ditch diggers too. And I guess I'm just a ditch digger. Which, there's nothing wrong with being a ditch digger.
No, I mean, no, not at all. No, I agree with what you're saying. I think it just comes down to it's hard.
Keep going.
I think it's hard. People don't like things that are hard.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's
emotionally.
That's what I'm saying. So that automatically separates, well, I'm not a marathon runner. When's the last time you tried to run a marathon? Why would I do that? I got to go, you know, like, and I'm not a marathon runner.
Yeah. I'm not, yeah. I mean, you know, I think, honestly, if you put my my life under a microscope and you dissected everything, I'm just, and I truly do believe this, that I'm just really, really lucky, because if at any one point in time you took a chunk of my life out, it wouldn't have led up to what it is now.
That's every human.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but I don't know necessarily, because I know guys that are better athletes than me that didn't have what I had at the school that I had, with the coaches that I had, with the mentors that I had.
But we all have these, like, I got a buddy, quick story. He's been with the same woman like 40 plus years, and he tells a story how they were both hitchhiking in like Idaho or Washington in like the early 70s. Oh, okay. He's going one way, she's going another. Well, she's in a car, actually. He's hitchhiking, thumb out, 2 cars stop, like one going north, one going south. He looks, no rhyme or reason. I'll jump in that one. In the back seat was the woman that he made babies with, and now they have grandkids, and there's a whole, you know, there's hundreds of lives that are affected by what appeared to be a random choice, 2 cars. So, to your point, like, they might have not had the same things, but there were other things that it's about capitalizing on good coaches. And
and I was a shit in high school. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it.
How so?
So, bad attitude, mean.
Why? You don't seem mean.
Not really, not too much anymore.
Girls didn't like you? Did that make you mean?
No, I mean, it wasn't, girls wasn't like I had any crazy trauma. I was just a
jag-off jock.
I wouldn't even classify myself.
Get out of my way, butthead.
Well, I wasn't like a big dude, and I wasn't very intimidating, but I was just so freaking mean in high school. I know, and it
too much testosterone, unbridled.
Perhaps. And it's not like I didn't have an outlet, because I worked out 3 times a day in high school sometimes. So it's
weird.
Yeah, I just was super, and I didn't have any other way to channel it, so I had to like fix myself, and just decide. Part of it was when I was going through buds. So
I hear like a lot of self reflection and introspection in your life, even as a young man, which is a good trait. Mm-hmm. So you know, like without that, some people, they miss all of these signs on the road of their life if they don't have the ability to like stop and assess. Mm-hmm. You know. Absolutely. So who knows where you got that? That could be, you know, parenting and part of your makeup, your personality. Yeah. Luck. Definitely. I don't believe in luck. Luck's got something to do with it. Sure, we all. I mean, but you have to capitalize. Just to sprinkle a little salt. You have to capitalize on those things. You do, yeah. I mean, I won't say that I haven't worked hard or I haven't, you know, done anything, because I mean, I have. I've worked hard, but I also like to keep a level head and say, you know, everybody works hard. I mean, everybody on my team works hard to get where they were. I'm not anything special, so yeah, I try to keep myself from too many peaks and valleys. Just stay pretty even keel. The older I get, I have grown to appreciate the peaks and valleys. Like, I know when I'm in a low, be it emotional or whatever it is, like a high will come. And then when I'm there, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this. I'll smell the roses for a minute. But I know it's not like, hurry up and enjoy it because it's going to be gone. But that's just like, I know like that's the ebb and flow of life. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Some people get so, that's like the failure. Like, some people get so, like, shit, it didn't work. Like, all is lost. Like, no, it's not. The sun comes up tomorrow. The moon phases have been going round and round. The earth keeps cycling around. Unless you're a flat earther, then you're a weirdo.
Flat earthers. We don't want to go in that rabbit hole.
No, we don't. So you get back. You're back in Indiana. The Navy's finished with you. You've done your service to the government. Thank you for that. And you decide, okay, I'm going to go to college. Did the wrestling thing, was that part of, okay, I'm going to wrestle at college, or I got to sign up for college, and then when you're there, you saw like wrestling, what is it called? The
Singlet?
Yeah, you got the singlet, and you saw one, and you're like, oh, yeah. Drew, did you wrestle?
No.
You did track.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to private school. They didn't have wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Drew went to the Citadel.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's another story
Dropped out
altogether.
here all week.
Yeah.
Different thing though.
Yeah.
Different deal. When I got out, I was transitioning out of the Navy. I was in Guam, and I had a plan in my head about a year out that I was gonna get out and go to college. And one of the buddy I was talking about that was a SEAL walked on to Northwestern's football team.
Oh, okay, up here.
Mm-hmm. When he was like 32.
What?
Yeah.
A 32-year-old, so he's physically fit, but those guys at that age can be pretty broken too.
Yeah.
How big is he?
Like 230.
Oh, well, that's a big SEAL.
Yeah, he's like 6'1", maybe 6'1". So my height, but 230. Big dude.
So like 80 pounds heavier than you. That was a joke. Keep going.
And I saw what was possible through him, because he's not really a phenomenal athlete. Good athlete, but nothing spectacular. Still had to walk on just the same as I did, and that sort of sparked between unfinished business with my high school wrestling career and wanting to wrestle in college and not thinking I was good enough, to seeing him walk on and go, you know what, maybe that's an opportunity, because I'd never really thought of walking on before.
That's a pretty nice roadmap to have in front of you with a friend.
Right. See.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I mean, and
not lucky though, because you chose a good friend. See.
I met him through my mom, actually. She knew his mom, and
I see.
We got hooked up.
For the people listening and watching, explain real quick, because not everybody understands what that means to walk onto a team like that.
Walking onto a team means that you're not recruited in any fashion, really, to be a true walk-on. So what you have to do, essentially, is go up to the coaching staff and say, hey, I want to be on your team. And then whether they say yay or nay, you have to go through a trial period where, like mine was 2 weeks.
So did you come and like wrestle and?
I had 4 wrestling practices. I had 2 weeks, but we were in the summer and only wrestling twice a week.
This was just a couple years ago.
Yeah, this was.
Remember you telling me about this?
This was actually like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah, you told me that. I'm like, no shit. Yeah.
And I had 4. I literally had 4 wrestling practices in 6.
And this is after not wrestling for years.
7
you
years.
maybe like had a couple fun matches in the living room, but you weren't.
I was not
on
training.
a team. You weren't being coached.
No.
You weren't training. You weren't.
No,
You weren't thinking and eating and dreaming and sleeping it.
Not at all. Yeah, I was 7 years. In fact, I think. Yeah, 7 years. Not almost to the day, but pretty damn close.
Wow.
To my first competition when I came.
So when you went and talked to the coaches, and you're like, "Hey, my name's Trevor. I want to walk on the team," and they're like, "So what have you been doing?" You're like, "Well, not wrestling."
Well, before that, I wasn't even accepted to Purdue. I got denied 3 times.
Did you pick Purdue because you wanted to go to college there, or did you pick Purdue because you wanted to wrestle there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, both. I wanted to wrestle, and I liked Purdue. I had a lot of family. My uncle, my best friend Tyler wrestled for Purdue, so it was an easy choice. I knew the team because I'd visited throughout the years when I came home, on leave, and so I applied. Didn't get in the first, second, or third, and finally I had to go. I had to go to community college when I got out to get my GPA up because it was really low from high school. I took some college classes, and being a not so stellar student, I had like a 1.6 GPA, and every school I applied to, like 11 schools, and I got denied by all of them. And I was like, man, maybe that relative is right. Maybe I ain't getting into college, man.
I
don't know
quote
about
Super
that.
Dave almost every one of our podcasts, and it's like the little things in our life, like paying attention to the details of a quiz or a test, and I was not a very good student either.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished 6 months of doing some community college stuff, and I did well, but every little thing's important, man. Everything that becomes the mindset of a winner. Like, all right, I'm going to do good on this test because in the future I want to get into a school, etc., etc. So you went to a community college and had to suck that up for a while?
I did it for a year. For a year I drove, I commuted to community college, and I applied after the first semester, and they were like, nah. Second semester I got in, and I started, and then when I got to Purdue, the first thing I did was went up to the coaching office for the wrestling team, and I was like, hey, to one of the coaches that's no longer there, I was like, hey, I want to be on your team. And he basically said no. He was just like, not a chance. And I was like, huh, because they had some bad experiences with another veteran and some other military folks in the past, and kind of put a bad taste in their mouth from other guys. And I had no high school accolades, even though I was, a decent wrestler.
So that's the part I want to figure out. So it's not like you could say I was 2-time state champion or I won this, trophy or something.
It was a tough one. It was a tough sell. I had to go to his office multiple times throughout a whole 1 year period because I didn't wrestle. I was going to Purdue not wrestling.
How many times do you think you went to his office to ask?
Honestly, I was on the phone with him more. I was probably in his office like 3 times.
How many times do you think you connected with this guy over the course of a year?
I have no
50,
idea.
100?
I mean, every time I was at a meet, I'd walk up to him and be like, hey, what's going on, coach? How's it going?
So you just wore him down like water on stone.
I don't know. I think I knew the whole...
I don't mean it in a negative way.
No, I know that. I just mean I wasn't that persistent because I knew like what I needed to do wasn't necessarily talking. I knew I needed to show him. And
during that time were you training that year?
Yes. I was that entire year because I was in Lafayette. I was I was just driving 80 miles or whatever it is back up to Crown Point on weekends or sometimes during the week.
And training with your high school team or what?
Training with my high school team, training at the middle school with one of my other friends, or I'd call a buddy the same buddy that was on the Purdue team before.
And you guys would go somewhere where there was a mat?
Anywhere. My buddy's basement, I'd wrestle with my buddy or my friend Tyler, who was on the wrestling team.
Did you have any coaching?
No. I would basically go in there, and I knew that from a technical standpoint, I wasn't going to get...
It's pretty much like a bullshit, like feel-good movie plot. Like, because you were out in your barn.
Yeah.
You were out in your barn doing, CrossFit exercises, beating a heavy bag. You had some videos up on your Instagram, shirtless and sweaty, Indiana farm boy beating a heavy bag and, swinging kettlebells. There's little, hay cloud, like a little hay dust cloud. And
yeah, man. There was some
I can't come in yet, Ma. I got a dream.
It sucked because it put some strain on my family. Not significant, but it was like there were arguments and stuff because I was being selfish, because I think on a certain level to be successful at something you got to be a little selfish.
So you were so driven to this end of I'm going to get on this team.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like I'd get out of class, let's say one day, and it'd be 4 o'clock. I'd go to the gym, and even if it was the winter time with no heat, I'd be there until 8 o'clock.
Out in the barn.
Yeah, out in the barn, working out or doing something, and then I'd go home and do homework and then do the whole thing again.
In wintertime up here, guys, that could be 5 below zero.
Pretty cold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it got honestly harder when I went to Purdue because I didn't have anybody in Purdue that I knew at the time. I didn't have any access to any wrestling rooms or anything. So I had to drive, up back home, like I said, sometimes during the week to wrestle and then drive.
So you're driving hundreds of miles back and forth. I don't mean one way, but all of thousands of miles cumulatively.
Easily, yeah.
And you got a job in all of this too?
I did. I was working on a farm for a daycare for my neighbor's moving company, and then I was also doing my own.
You worked doing farming? You worked in a daycare? With babies? Kids?
No, I didn't. I was a maintenance guy.
Oh, okay.
I would fix things, paint things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your dad's a carpenter, so you grew up doing some of that stuff.
I did.
And then what was the third thing?
I worked a little bit for my neighbor who owns a moving company.
So you're humping stuff and...
Yeah. Lots of physicals labor.
Yeah.
So I would work out, and then I would physically work, and I usually was pretty exhausted by the end.
And you're studying, because you're going to a good school.
Well, I had such a shitty GPA that I had no choice but to pull straight A's to get into Purdue.
Yeah.
to undo what I had done in high school. So yeah, it was a grind for a while there. Just like
That's why I ain't seen you in a year and a half.
yeah, I was just
So, fast forward back or rewind rather. You run into Coach one day, and what was the final straw that broke the camel's back?
time. Honestly, time. He basically told me straight up as soon as I went into the first year, no, not just because I was a veteran, but just we don't have room on our roster. So I knew I just had to get.
Were
to work.
you asking him like, can I just like help
me.
at practice or?
Well, if there's a liability issue though, because I'm not on the roster and I'm not on the staff, so if anybody if I go in there and got hurt, then that'd be grounds for me to sue or
Sure.
So they just said no. So after the year, I went back in there and was like, hey, just so you know, I'm still ready to do this, and this is like 3 years in the making that I'm like holding on to this.
That's pretty cool.
And he was like, okay, man, yeah, come to our club. We're going to give you a 2-week tryout and all this. And at the time, I was like, oh, cool, 2 weeks. That's plenty of time to, like, prove my worth, It was only 4 wrestling practices. So I was pretty nervous.
Each one was, you screw up one time, it would be like...
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily that. What they're really looking for is the effort. And I was physically capable and I was in shape. But 4 practices, if I didn't show up in shape, let's say, it's not enough to get you in shape.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully I was in shape. And
you talking physical conditioning, wrestling skills, like you were tuned back up, your coordination, your speed, it was there?
Coordinated and speed, I'm a little above average in coordination and speed as far as athletics go. But
wait a minute! A minute ago, you said you're a pretty average athlete. Now, that's what athletics is
right.
Coordination and speed.
Yeah. No,
so now the truth comes out.
I am an okay athlete. I would say I'm an
okay athlete with above average strength and speed and agility. Drew's back there rolling his eyes.
I'm
talking about
friends,
esports.
Seriously, I'm friends with guys that are actual athletes that make me look stupid.
What is an actual athlete?
Honestly, I've had that conversation with myself a lot where I'm like...
Is this some kind of self-deprecating bullshit? Like, you're not an actual athlete.
No.
You're an idiot.
Well, I thought about... Well, I just know what the very high level can be, and I'm not very high level, but I am higher than most.
You just spent a half an hour telling us that you walked onto a Division I wrestling team at one of the best wrestling schools in the country, and with 4 practices to show after working out in a barn in the middle of winter and all that, so... Apparently he's got some kind of little I don't want to puff my own chest thing going on here.
I just know how much higher.
Sure. There's always somebody better.
Yeah, so I know that I'm not any physical specimen really, because like I said, I am friends with the guys that I think are.
Yeah.
So just having that knowledge, maybe I'm coming off as a little overly humble or something, but
sure.
the truth of the matter is I'm not comparatively that amazing compared to the guys that are out there.
Drew and I said that earlier.
What's that?
When we watched you walk in here, we're like, he's not that amazing.
Yeah, he's kind of...
Well, there's always somebody better, and there's always somebody that's got nuance, like that guy's better at this thing, right? A running back versus a quarterback, you wouldn't compare, they're doing different stuff. So you'd go through the 4 practices. Was there any defining moments where during those 4 tryouts for you were like, I nailed it, like that was awesome?
No, honestly, no. I got my ass kicked, and in fact there was only...
What'd that look like? They threw you in and just guys were tearing you up?
I was not getting manhandled by anybody.
Okay.
Because I am, if anything, I'm strong for my weight, but there was guys like this guy who's a good buddy, Tom Panola, and if he's listening, he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. He literally, and I'll show you a picture later, punched me in the ear, and it blew up this ear and gave me cauliflower ear.
He did it on purpose?
Yeah.
He punched you?
It was a punch. I'll show you.
So you guys were scrapping and he freaking hooked you?
He gave me it's called a club.
Okay.
So you're hand fighting, and then you literally take your hand and you just club their neck, and it's supposed to stun you.
Yeah.
And it sets you up, for a takedown.
But he clubbed your ear.
And I wasn't wearing headgear because at the time I was like, I need freaking headgear. I'm tough. Yeah. All right. Got one to the ear and it blew my ear up, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I show you the picture. huge. And
Drew will want that for this video.
the coach, yeah.
Well, yeah, we're going to put that in here on
That's
YouTube.
fine.
We're going to see your big swollen ass cauliflower.
Oh man, and I
Look
looked.
at it now.
Did they drain you?
I did.
You drained it?
Yeah, I did it. I had I wasn't technically part of the team at the time, so I
So
didn't.
you couldn't go to the...
I think I could have, but I didn't. I was like, I know. I was like, Tom, he jacked me up, but blew my ear up. And it was like the second practice, and the coach that I was talking to walk on the team was like, dude, this is like your second practice. Your ear's already blown up. What the hell, man? And I was like, oh man, like that's a bad thing. Crap, you know. So then I just kept wrestling with it, and it was like that for months.
Big?
Months of
Yeah.
all blown up, but obviously it ended up healing.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's not even bad. There's some guys on
Yeah,
our
it's a little
team
bit,
that-
but it's, wrestling.
not bad at all compared to some of those guys.
Yeah.
Ground hamburger on there.
My brother's got one that looks like a
Yeah.
bunch of mushrooms growing in his ear or
Yeah.
something. So you guys kicked ass for these 4 practices, and they brought you in.
Yeah, and then the head coach Tony just honestly very casually was just like, Trevor, like, hey, let me talk to you in the locker room one day. And I was like, what's going on, coach? You know, like, he's like, I'm like, this is the end of the 2 weeks, and he's like scrolling on his phone. He's like, is it? Oh yeah, I guess it is. He's like, so we're gonna have you. You know, which means like you're going to be part of the team and you're responsible for your grades and your character, you know, your attitude and everything you bring. So how does that sound? And I was like, I'm probably until right now when he listens to this, because he's going to listen to this. I told him about it. I had no idea how long I was waiting and what I was doing, but I was just like,
So you're saying when he hears this,
yeah,
it'll be the first time he knows this whole story.
yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Anybody on my team knows it.
That's pretty cool, dude.
Nobody knows really.
I didn't know the whole story. I mean, I knew bits of it, which is why we wanted to have you on here. So, I mean, I'm learning a little bit right now. So, so that was how many months ago?
It was in April.
Okay. So you've gone basically half the school year.
Yeah.
Or, yeah,
I've
from...
gone about 8 months, a little
Yeah.
over 8 months now, going on 9.
And how's it going?
It's great. It's really, really hard, but I like that, you know.
Oh, how's your grades?
Good. I pulled a 2.75, which is decent. It's not amazing, you know. I'm pretty consistent, though, with grades. So.
What do you got to have to stay on the team?
I'm not really sure. I would say, well, no, to be in the school, you have to have above a 2.0.
Okay.
So C average. You have to have C averages. But to be an athlete, it's always expected you have more. And there's
Okay.
no excuse to not to
Sure.
have a 2.0, really. So, because there's plenty of things at our disposal.
So what's an average day look like for a Division I wrestler at Purdue? What is that?
Well, depending on what day it is, like let's say it's a Monday to like today, you're gonna wake up at 5 and you're gonna go lift. Your lift starts at 6, so you wake up, eat a little something, and then go to your first workout, and then you'll go to class most of the day. If not, you'll probably fit in a private, which is with the coach one-on-one after your lift, but before or maybe after your classes, which is just like a drill or like technique or something
Sure.
like that. And then every day at 2 o'clock, there's practice, and then that goes until, I don't know, it depends if whether we play handball or not. If we play handball, then it's going to go till 4:30, 5 o'clock. Not really 5, like 4:30. But it's always a tough practice, you know.
Every day?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
He practices every day, though.
6 days a week. 6 days a week. And I would say, well, more half the time it's a 2 a day, sometimes 3. And then you have classes, and by the time, like if you're on study tables, which I was this semester because I was new, and that was the policy, you had to go to study hall. And yeah, you do homework until like 8 o'clock, and then I drive home, cook dinner, feed my dog, and start the cycle all over again.
So you get home 8, 9 o'clock at night, you got homework to do once you get home?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
So you're falling asleep reading books and you just wake up and pound it out again.
Yeah, that's the college life. That's, you know, because I know guys.
Although you've chose to massively compound the amount of stuff you have to do. If you just wanted to go to school,
Sure.
you would cut probably 75% of all of this workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if I was just going to school, I wouldn't have weekend workouts or competition or anything, which we do. So, I mean, there's days where you have like maybe an online test or something, and you're in Missouri, which we're in Indiana, which is, several hours away. So you still got to take care of business. You still got to do what you got to do.
Sounds like a completely different dude than the 17-year-old you. So 9 years later. Mm-hmm. So if 17-year-old dude was sitting there, what would you say to him? Like if you could just like have like a private convo for 10 minutes.
I'd have a lot to say, and then at the same time, nothing. I would just let him go through the process.
Muck it up.
Yeah, I'd let him screw it all up, and then eventually he'd figure it out.
Okay, so if we could circumvent, because this part of you's learned it, so if you could just say, hey, do me a fave, what would those things be? Just give me a few.
If I had to say, just tell my younger self one piece of advice, it'd be the same piece of advice that I followed, but I would try and follow it earlier. It was just listen. Listen. Don't hear what people are saying. Listen to what they're actually saying, and then, digest, comprehend, contemplate, question, do whatever you have to do, but listen to them, because if you do listen, there's a whole hell of a lot of information out there.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it. What's next? So you got 3 years of school left or 2?
I have 3 semesters left. I could graduate in a year, but I'm choosing to not. I'm choosing to take a couple extra classes and continue wrestling. So, because I had such a long process, once you start college, your eligibility starts, your clock for wrestling. Mm-hmm. So I have 2 years, 3 with a red shirt.
What's that
eligibility
mean?
A red shirt's like a sit-out season where you can't compete in anything except open competition. You can't represent the school, so you're unattached from.
Is that school policy or like?
If you're a red shirt, yeah. It's NCAA policy.
Okay.
If you're a red shirt.
Okay.
So, but right now I'm not a red shirt. I don't plan on taking one. Not that I'm old, but I'll be pushing 28 when I graduate, so I don't need to be pushing 30 any more than I would already be. So, I will do my 2 years and then move on to whatever's next in my life, which right now looks like some entrepreneur goals, some business stuff, and then anything else, maybe working for a government agency or something. I haven't quite decided, but I've got quite a few options, which is really fortunate for me.
Well, it sounds like you've developed a good system of creating an objective, defining some actionable steps, and doing it. That's the prerequisite to achieve anything. That was a big turning point for me, like figuring out that process. Like I felt into my 20s, man, I was just like, I don't want to say I did a lot of different things, but like it was so hard. It was like if I had to move 500 pounds, I did it 20 times to like do it right. And then I figured out like I could just like put this in a wheelbarrow and walk it over there and be done with it. Like I did so many things the hard way until I figured out like what the things you're describing, like zero in, do the work, shut up and listen.
Yeah, it's actually a simple formula. It's simple. It's just not easy. I believe that's
not easy in the sense of like anything worth a shit probably isn't going to be like, okay, I did a half a day's work. Why aren't I a millionaire?
Yeah.
It requires, like he and I talk all the time. We've been working at this business and building this podcast, our YouTube channel, which all of that stuff isn't the business. That's just like a product that we put out. But like we were creating videos for years that nobody was looking at.
Yeah.
And then you're like, do we suck? Is it the content, the quality? Is it and you start thinking about it. No, it's just hard. It's
just hard.
Yeah, it's not that easy. And so many people are like we talked a minute ago, you're asking some questions like, no, we're not going to tell you all the ways that we fit. And of course, I'm kind of joking, but kind of not, because if anything that's valuable was easy, like diamonds. If they were everywhere, they wouldn't be worth a shit. You got to go dig through a mountain to find one little one.
Yeah. No, there's definitely value in what we were talking about earlier about like secrets of the trade and being able to figure out some things for yourself. I think it's more valuable and it means more to you when you do figure it out for yourself. But honestly, just being on this podcast alone is pretty awesome. I mean, it's more than an opportunity.
I agree.
It's
agree.
No, it's like I said, once again, luck. It's maybe not
ain't
just
luck,
luck, but
Here's how you and I met. For the listener or viewer, it's not luck. You called me out of the blue. Hi, my name's Trevor Blue. This is who I am. This is what I'm looking for. Can you help me? And I'm like, well, that alone is like, okay, this person's, taking the time. There's people that'll send me like misspelled messages on like Facebook and stuff like, hey, and it's like, well, you didn't even take the time to like spell check.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to judge you, but like, you then drove 4 hours or whatever to come up here to meet and do some stuff. So is that luck? No,
Well, no, yeah.
And I don't think back then you were like, oh, I want to be on a podcast with this guy.
No.
But that's not luck.
Yeah. No, you're right there.
Yeah, you took action. Yeah, it's like I paddled out to that island. Well, I'm lucky I got there. No, you started paddling, bro.
Yeah. I guess what I mean is not everybody gets the same exact opportunity to be on something like this or to do.
But there's a million things.
They're capable of doing it.
There's a million things.
Maybe they don't do it. Or
we just did a podcast. Drew just published it with our friends J.J. Kelly and Josh Thomas. They have the one guy just came back from Antarctica. They paddled homemade kayaks from Alaska to Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
They rode bicycles the entire length of the Alaska pipeline. They hiked the Appalachian Trail. They traveled the whole length of the Ganges River, starting in the Himalayas. They've been around the world numerous times. They were some of they both have been on Deadliest Catch as the film crew, which is like a super hard job to get and like actually do well at. They like nobody gave them any of that. They're just like,
I listened to part of that.
Yeah, it's really good.
Cool.
It's really good discussion. I don't know why you didn't listen to all of it. I hope people, when they listen to yours, they listen to all of it.
I won't judge you if you don't. I won't judge you if you don't.
So let's do this. The people listening, and this is just like when I asked you here, I didn't know how the convo would go. I think it actually was a really good discussion. If you never meet the people that are listening or talking and you could pass on anything, I asked you, what would you tell your younger self? What would you leave these people with? The 25-year-old sage that you are.
Yeah, with all my wisdom. I would say, and as cliche as it sounds, I would say do what you want to do. And not just what makes you happy, because wrestling doesn't necessarily make me happy. Does it feel good to accomplish something? Does it feel good to work hard? Yes, but I'm not overjoyed in every single day when I wake up at 5 o'clock. I'm not thinking like, oh my God, like this is amazing. No, but there's a certain sense of pride and happiness that goes along with it. But I would say do what you want to do. So if that's business or if that's running a half marathon or becoming a badminton champion, I don't know. Whatever. Yes. Do what you want to do and don't let other people get in your way, regardless. Because I've definitely been there with friends and family and coaches that said, nah.
So it's not like bowl over people. You're saying don't take bad advice from people that tell you can't do something. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, listen to them.
You're not saying like this wife of mine won't let me date other women. She's getting in my way. That's not what you're saying.
No, definitely don't do that. Or if you do that, don't tell me about it.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we're clarifying. You're not saying like selfishly, don't let anything stop you.
No, that's a good point. No,
I want a Corvette. These kids need clothes and dental care. I'm getting my Corvette.
If you have a goal, just go out and don't go out. Just do it. Create, like you said previously. Create actionable steps, and honest to God, it's not that hard.
It's nauseatingly simple.
But you have to do it, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is like just like. And literally anything is
as you found out on this journey of yours, you do something like, okay, I need to go to the gym 8 days a week, and then you realize maybe I need to take a day or two off to rest. So then you change your plans, or I need to eat this kind of food. Well, that's not working out. I'm gaining weight and getting fat, so I need to change. You change things, right?
Absolutely.
And refine. That's a better word. Refine the plan.
Adaptability is huge. If I could say another thing would be being adaptable. You gotta be. Human beings are one of the most adaptable animals on the planet, I would say, and being able to adapt not just physically but mentally to whatever you're presented with is huge. It's talked about in many professions, many endeavors, but it's not unique to any one person. So mental flexibility.
how would somebody work on mental flexibility and adaptability?
The way that I did it maybe isn't exactly the most efficient or the right way. Was just kind of brute force. I was forcing myself to think differently, and even though if I had a negative or a mean thought, I would instantaneously take it back and then say something different or find a way to rephrase it. Self-talk, or I mean, literally, even if I had to say it out loud to myself.
I do a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's helpful.
Yeah,
it does.
Not everybody's brains, yours and I probably work similar. Not everybody's work like ours. Like some people don't need that type of input. Somebody might need a friend that can help them with that, or
Yeah, I mean, and I remember that one time that we were up at your range shooting when I was telling you about, I forget what it was. I was like, I want to do it, and you're like, why do you want to do it? And I was like, because I suck at it, and it was seemingly negative. Yeah, I think that the mentality, my mentality is like, if I suck at something, well, I'm gonna make it so that I don't suck anymore, and figuring out what works for you, because everybody's an individual.
Right.
So individual problem, you need an individual.
Which it all
solution
comes
to it.
back to, like, we're individuals, and it's all just surmounting ourself.
Mm-hmm. Everybody can't follow the same path, but the ending can still be the same for everybody. My coach says that, we're not all on the same path, but we have the same end goal, which
Win.
win. Beat people's asses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Hey, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming out. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Do you have, like, a nickname?
I don't.
Like
a lot of people just call me Trevor.
Trevor the Squirmer?
No, I got...
Sign that somewhere, anywhere you want. Put today's date on it. It is 12/23. 12/23. 2 days before Christmas 2020.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
Give me a signature somewhere on there. This is now our 91st episode of the Higher Line.
Okay.
You could actually sign it 91st too. 91st episode. It's like a bit of a marker on there so we can see.
All right. And then what is it, number 91?
Yeah, 91. Cool.
Bam.
So most people, we call in, but these are the folks that actually visit here.
This is great.
Yeah. I appreciate you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you taking the time to do it. You dudes out there in the internet, at home, in your car, hope you appreciate it. This dude got out of bed. It's Christmas break. The workload he's got, he took time. He could be at home right now recuperating, studying. He drove hours up here on the early morning of his Christmas break to do this. And of course, there are some, I'm going to use the word selfish. There's some selfish reasons. Not a bad thing. I mean, we have to be selfish. You're putting yourself out there. You're sharing your message. It's cool to do. But you didn't have to. You could have been like, I'm too busy. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Share this stuff. If you guys dig it, if it's meaningful to you, share it. Post it on your social media. Post it on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. If you're following us on Instagram, we have a account called Higher Line Podcast. You can use those posts there to share with people so that they can drive traffic, so we can share more people like Trevor with you. It's inspiring. It's uplifting. These stories, we all got them. So I think when we surround ourselves with, I talk about this with you guys all the time, surround yourself with dudes like that. You want to hang out with a guy that quits, or a dude that spends 3 years chasing a goal, going to the coach's office when he said no 100 times. They probably thought that you were like, something was wrong with you at first.
It was a tough sell.
I dig it, man. I once applied for a job for 3 months straight when I was like 18 or 19, and I took like a $10 pay cut to get it because it was a cool company. I wanted to work there. And the guy's like, fine. I went there so often that the secretary eventually came out and was like, the boss is here today. And the guy came out, he's like, you're the dude that keeps filling out the job apps.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Why do you want to work here? And I said, because you guys are the best in the business, and I want to work for the best in the business. I think, sometimes you got to do that. So do you want to hang out with a guy like that, or losers? That's what we have here. So Merry Christmas to you. You'll hear this after Christmas, but I hope you had a good 2019. Kick some ass. Don't be dickheads. And that's all I got. Peace.
Peace.
Till 92.
Boiler up.
Boiler up. Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S.,
Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.